Welcome on the couch. The first week of the finals has been run and won. Only 6 teams remain for that chance to lift the cup on that last Saturday in September. Plenty of winners from the weekend, and every game from here, boys, is win or go home. It was a great week of finals, and the boys are looking forward to dissecting it right here on the couch. And let's start with the road to glory, boys. And it was a glorious win for a couple of teams on the weekend, but you look at that, and that's how it pans out if you want to get there to the grand final and ultimately, Geordie, win the cup.
Yeah, well, Collingwood and Geelong have obviously skipped this week, so that's the easiest way home. So they'll be sitting back, resting up, and having a solid session on the Saturday, I would imagine. But just seeing who comes their way and hoping that there's a few injuries that might enhance their chances.
It was a good weekend of footy, wasn't it? I think the AFL will be wrapped. They get 2 preliminary finals at the MCG, but they've had a final in every state, or they will have had a final in every state. So it's good for the national competition. It was a great weekend of footy. Obviously, Geelong clearly won against the Lions, but good, hotly contested games.
A couple of hardened finals winners in the qualifying finals, and a couple of teams that want to prove that they can do that in the elimination finals. It was a fair effort.
Let's wind it all the way back to Thursday night, boys, and it was a huge game and a replay of a game that we saw 3 weeks ago with plenty of spice in the first outing and plenty of spice in the second outing. But Bucks, the Magpies, they were coming into the finals 2-5. Their form didn't say they could be a challenger, but they have come out of this and will be their prelim final.
Yeah, I think the performance against Adelaide 3 weeks ago sort of gave us a window into the possibility of what we saw at Adelaide Oval on Thursday night. They were able to ramp their pressure up, to go with a couple more games under his belt and did enough to be able to challenge a side that looked impregnable at times through the home and away.
It's got a little bit of a look to Goey, same as Dangerfield in 2022. They've timed it perfectly. They've just got him red hot. And his fitness is primed up for September.
He's given them something to go. He's certainly in the middle of the ground, but they were an impenetrable wall, Geordie, Collingwood, and it was on repeat as well.
Yeah, they got the game set up the way that they want to, and it was a coaching masterclass in a sense that they didn't accept that they were going to equalise forward of the ball. So this vision will show that they were happy with 5 forwards ahead of the ball for themselves, which gave them space and the ability to move. But certainly in their defence, they wanted 7 defenders nearly all the time, and quite often it was either Frampton on this occasion or Darcy Moore on occasions here. And the way they got this was either through a winger engaging the high half forward from Adelaide, which meant that there was natural drop-off. But the other thing that I liked is not only is it stable defensively, so imagine trying to get through that. You ain't getting any run-back goals that Adelaide like to get through a defence. So Quaynor is the deepest numerical. Watch when they win the ball. This is to the open side, and because there's so much space between the stoppage and the spare, it means that spare can get involved on offence. If you have a high spare on occasions with Adelaide, which Adelaide did, if that spare then gets the ball, he's consumed by congestion. I think quite often they had the spare defender, and he was able to be stable in terms of the drop-off, but certainly on offence he was able to be aggressive.
You mentioned Darcy Moore. It was an incredible game by the Collingwood captain. 9 intercepts, which is the most ever in a final. He single-handedly stopped Adelaide's score in the first half.
Yeah, nine intercept marks. They had 28. They had 12 in the first quarter. So when you're looking for positive signs on the road and you've set the game up the way that you want to set them up, and then he has a game, and I was really impressed because early on he took an intercept mark and went for a switch kick and it didn't turn out, and the Adelaide boys came for it.
And they got a goal out of that, Adelaide.
They got a goal, so Dawson got the goal out of that one, but then he was able to settle.
He lost that contest against Tex Walker.
Before
that, so he's in some ways responsible in some ways for the first 2 goals, but was able to centre himself and stay focused.
So we'll talk about captain's game in the other games, but could you imagine what that does to the group when your captain has made a boo-boo, but then backs it up with some really good contest work?
Especially when you dial up the fact that there's no Jeremy Howe, and we've been on about the fact that without Howe, they are statistically a 2-goal worse side defensively, and the pressure has been on Darcy Moore. He's single-handedly affected more than anyone else because Jeremy Howe's not out there.
But that shows you how coaching and structure can fix that. So if you don't have Jeremy Howe, OK, how are we going to shore up our back? And it gives a Darcy Moore more confidence to go for his marks, because if it comes to ground, you've got the extra number there somehow. Did you guys play with that a bit, did you? Called it the nude?
We'd play nude. That would be Alex Rance, who would play behind the ball.
The 1v none behind the ball.
That came from us, did it?
Mate,
Stealing.
but how can Matthew Next let this happen so long and not change the offensive structure for Adelaide.
Is there an element of, I saw Brisbane their first final series in 2019, lose a game against GWS by a point, and all they did is kept kicking it down the line. Now, clearly that wasn't the plan going in, but is it a case of going into finals and getting a bit starstruck and feeling not starstruck, but overawed and feeling the pressure and just not seeing the rest of the field?
Offensively, you can see there. That is, I think, Brownie, you've hit the nail on the head there. You factor in everything that happened for Adelaide. The first time they played finals since 2017. Tex Walker's 300th. They just played Collingwood, and there was a fair bit of fallout from that too. That was a huge game on the weekend.
Well, Collingwood haven't shown that +1 as heavily as they did that night. So even an Adelaide ball carrier looks up and he's seeing something that they haven't seen against Collingwood before. It probably hasn't been coached through the week. So you try and make adjustments. But the Adelaide's first adjustment would have been, let's use our extra and run and carry. But then Collingwood's pressure was elite as well. So the pressure game goes hand in hand with the intercept game, and it worked for that structure and in offence as well.
I think you're exactly right. So you can have a spare at either end, but it is what you do within the stoppage. So Collingwood from stoppage kicked 42% of the time, handballed 55% of the time. So that was their third highest by hand out of stoppage to combat what Adelaide were giving them, where it was the opposite. When Adelaide got the ball, they were able to dump it, which meant that they were able to impact in the
2.5 kicks per handball, Adelaide.
Yep.
It was clear to see. I want to talk one of the big talking points coming into the game was the weapon that they had in the forward line. They've got a lot of them, but the big weapon they had in the forward line was Riley Thilthorpe-Brown. He was potentially going to play on Darcy Moore, and you come away and you look at the champion ratings, you go, well, highest rated player on the ground, but his actual impact in where we think he needs to earn his money in the air was down. Didn't have a
critical contest to call him, Jack. No doubt about it. And you're involved in, but these are the ones. Look, that's disappointing. You're not going to like watching that footage.
Yeah, and look, these are sort of the ones where you go, oh. In a big final, he's had moments. This is a moment late to get him back into the game, and he handballs there. He's got an open goal to go in and kick to it. I felt like the game got to Riley maybe.
How do you review that then?
Honestly, honestly, I think Riley, if it was me, I would walk in and go, you know what? There's three that I.
That hasn't been a pattern. So
it's not a pattern, and also with the double chance, Brownie, they get a chance to come back and go again, but he importantly gets a chance.
Comes back to sorry. How would you coach that though?
Well, you put it on the table and then you rely on
for
the player.
Everyone or just the player?
No, I think just the player. Yeah. And you rely on the player to respond. I mean, we all know that.
So you don't think it's a Robert Walls situation where you're rewinding that in front of the group several times?
It depends on Matthew Nix's read of Riley Thilthorpe and where he stands in the group. Because in the end, not so where he stands in the group, but how he would handle it. Yeah. What's going to get him to bristle to be able to fight back? It might be just enough. He might already have seen those edits in his own tape and gone, well, maybe the Hawthorn are going to watch out with who ends up rolling out. But he will be up against Barras and Battle and potentially Weddle that's coming across. So it's not going to be any easier. But he'll definitely want to respond, given, as we just said, the reputations are made in finals.
It's disappointing because presence is what you need from key forwards in finals, so that's not presence. But I'm sure he'll fight back. He looks to me like he's got character. The challenging thing for me, for Adelaide, was obviously the three most important players, Jack. One sitting in the grandstand.
Isaac Rankin.
Dawson, the captain, was kept, Isaac Rankin, of course. Dawson was kept below his usual standard, and then Thilthorpe turns in a performance like that. So it makes it really hard. And if we want to go to the midfield, let's just go to the old paper test, the old name test, put them side by side. This is the most concerning thing for me. So, yes, Rankin's not in there, but I put those names on the whiteboard in front of me. I go, how does Adelaide compete?
How many ticks do you see from Adelaide in that game the other night? Well, I reckon there's one. I reckon Rory Laird, who hadn't played midfield all year, hadn't attended centre bounce, they had to throw him in there. He's probably the only tick out of that game.
Well, that's right, but he might be offset by De Goey. He might be offset by Pendlebury. He might be offset by Long. So you just don't know. But look at those names. Houston playing all the games on the wing now, which has been a good move by Collingwood structurally as well. So I look at that, and that's a massive concern for me, the Adelaide Crows. Like, that's not a premiership midfield. Right there. Now, I'm happy to be proven wrong in 3 weeks' time, but I can't see that midfield holding up a premiership cup, especially without Isaac Rankin.
How important's Dawson there then? Because he's the star. No Rankin, obviously, as well, but he's the star, and he had a flat one as well.
Do you think, not to look ahead too much, but they play Hawthorn, and Sam Mitchell would have to be looking at that. Like, he's not a big tagging coach. But you have to be thinking, right, if we clamp Dawson, how else are they going to beat
it? Sit Warple on him. Yeah, I think it's the same conversation with a few midfields in the competition. Brisbane's got depth; they haven't got depth anymore. So then, what do you look at? We saw Geelong go go to some players and completely shut them out of the game, and how long that goes into winning the game. So yeah, it does seem like at the moment, if it's not Dawson, there's a bit of a gap to the next.
Well, projecting forward, if you were to do that with Adelaide and Hawthorn's midfield, do you think that wouldn't be too much
Similar?
different, would it?
Yeah.
I think they look like they've got similar depth.
Yeah,
That's right, yeah. They've been able to support really well on the edges, I guess. And look, Newcomb play. If Newcomb keeps playing the way he does, well, they're going to be hard to beat.
We'll get into some John Newcomb stuff later.
Yeah.
He's becoming Mr. September, but a man that won't be there unless they get to the last Saturday in September is Isaac Rankin. And he would be sitting in that midfield rank, Brownie, but he'd also be sitting in the forward 50 rank. And at the moment, they are a completely different side, especially at forward 50 stoppage. You see there, 19 points when Rankin played. And they're the two sample sizes that we've seen, and glaringly in that game against Collingwood, they had no movement whatsoever.
It takes
at
away
450.
one of your greatest strengths, isn't it? And that's not normally a heavy scoring area of the ground, is it, from forward 50 stoppages? So 19 is a big number.
And you don't need to go far back to look at his performance against Hawthorn to see him impact on the scoreboard in forward 50, and was potentially the difference in that game. So he's not going to be there for that.
I wonder how much the week. I mean, they will know internally, or the 2 weeks leading into this game had sucked the energy out of the group. I mean, because you can understand a smaller 2-team town, only 1 team now, the media circus around it and how much that consumed the Adelaide playing group, and maybe that contributed to a relatively flat performance on the weekend.
Well, there's plenty of talking points in September, and injuries is certainly one of them. We've spoken about Isaac Rankin, and John Ralph has the latest on Josh Rochelle. Is Josh Rochelle a chance of filling that void of Isaac Rankin?
Absolutely he is, Jack. So Adelaide holds its main training session tomorrow night at Adelaide Oval. If he trains the house down, he's a real chance to come into this team. So 10 weeks ago, he had knee capsule surgery, the same issue there as Sam Darcy. He has been running for only 2 weeks. He did some training last week. He was not available for the SNFL game on Sunday, in which the SNFL side lost. So it is such a short runway, but with so many of their players really disappointing, there is absolutely a groundswell to try and get him into this team. We'll know in a couple of days. Cal Shadiri's out of that semi-final with a mild hamstring issue. Sam Mitchell has just told AFL 360 he would not be available for a preliminary final. So the great story there is Mitch Lewis, who will come back in, you'd imagine, for his first AFL final in 8 seasons. Collingwood is genuinely open to the prospect of Bobby Hill playing in a preliminary final as the sub. They were thrilled that he pulled out of a sportsman's night on Friday night down in Tasmania. Instead, he signed up for the scratch match. 4 goals there in admittedly, lukewarm circumstances. So he cannot put a single foot wrong. They train on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. They have told him that he needs a flawless fortnight. And even then, it's not up to him. They still might not select him. A massive part of that decision will come down to the leadership group, which is led by Darcy Moore. At Brisbane, Oscar McInerney is seriously being considered to replace Sam Day, who had a single effective kick against Geelong. The club has not been able to trust McInerney's back. He's had multiple epidurals and other issues, but he's finally put together 4 senior VFL games since being dropped, albeit for that Gold Coast game in which he had only 3 possessions. So he was a non-factor that clash, and he's not the only answer, but you'd imagine that Ty Gallop and Sam Day aren't the answer either. Brownie, you've been hot on this for a while. I get the feeling you'd play Oscar McInerney.
I think so, yeah, Ralphie. Yeah, he's back in good form in the reserves. He's played some good football. He's obviously his back issues throughout the season. That's why he hasn't been playing. But against Jared Wicks, one of the premier ruckman and a big physical ruckman, they need McInerney and Ford, I think.
Were you surprised that he didn't play this weekend?
I was.
He was fit.
I was, yeah.
And they're so young now, not just forward of the ball, but they're so young everywhere.
And McInerney's capable ahead of the ball. He's a good set shot. He creates a good contest, and Day just hasn't been able to find the AFL speed again.
What ruck split would you use?
I'd probably edge it still to Fort, probably 60-40.
Right.
Because I still think McInerney's the more capable forward, even though Fort's capable of kicking goals. So,
Well,
anyway...
a little bit what you were talking about. I mean, Sam Day wasn't the worst. There was a lot of Lions players that underperformed on the night in terms of ratings, and that's only compared to the rest of the players.
Well, I
Carly
guess it's,
Cameron,
well, he's battling. He was back in. You thought he was back in a bit of form, but he struggled. I think he's really missed Joe Dano. We asked the question at the start of the year, or the question was posed, wasn't it? We won't know the answer to the Lions' issues until September. No Dano question, and that's a big problem out of the ball because essentially those boys are flankers or smaller players or young key forward players. So it is an issue, especially when you get heat up the field like Geelong put on, and then you start having to kick that long ball in.
We won't see Eric Hipwood again this season, where he's been ruled out for the rest of the season. Speed of ball has become... It was a weapon for Brisbane, and it was a weapon against Geelong in round 15, but then that got absolutely quelled from the Cats.
Yeah, well, maybe they showed their hand a little bit early, but this is round 15, as you can see, AFL average being 100. So the distance and the time and the aggressive nature in which they moved the ball, especially out of their halfback Brisbane, was on. It was a changing game style that they adopted, and they continued that on. Right
and it was
through
direct,
the end of the season. It was direct. So we've shown vision before of Zorko getting the ball and just going bang straight past the man on the mark and being direct. That was taken away, and it was a defensive masterclass from the Geelong Football Club, either ahead of the ball or behind. So these are the numbers once again: the speed of the ball movement, but the distance and the direct nature in which they went towards goal fell right away. So 104, 105, way back to 77. So this was a key plan going into the game. And Geelong were brilliant at it. And the way they set it up, so before, you've got to watch the kicker with the eyes and you've got to watch the players coming past. So Stengel right onto it. He knows the dangerous space is lateral to the man on the mark, and that they want to use that from run from behind. So you've got to watch that. You've got to catch them coming through. Once again, look at this Dangerfield. This is chasing out. So clearing out of your forward 50 to help apply pressure up the field, because you know they want to run and gun. You can't be sitting back on your heels inside the forward 50. Once again, watch the kicker's eyes. Understand where he wants to go. Dangerfield, bang. Yeah. Absolutely, they were on their toes. We mentioned it in the first quarter. You could just see they were on right here. They want to go to this Wilmot. Watch Bose. He's watching the kicker's eyes, ready to come forward. Bang, another turnover. So they know that they want speed on the ball. They want it to go direct in a line to goal, and they were onto it. So in terms of the coaches being pleased with the way that his team moved the ball in offence, absolutely, but you'd be more pleased by how they defended.
They've zoned, probably been the heaviest zoning side in the competition, and they were just on their toes. It seemed to me that the forwards were set a task to be really on their toes and cut off as much as they can. They'd set their layers and they came forward to put pressure on. In that round 15 game against the Lions down at GMHBA, their pressure was only 158 in the attacking mid. Last night or this weekend it was 196. So they just ramped up their pressure across Brisbane's preferred scoring zone, which is from halfback. They just couldn't get any time or space. And invariably we saw them when they cut it off there and went back and scored from it. If it wasn't that, then it was a dump kick or a less organised bit of rebound that the Lions have been accustomed to, and the forwards have been as well.
You can tell how they spent their fortnight training, what they drilled up. It was really sharp. They're on their toes, like you said, during the call. The other one was too, they got the matchups right. So they went to work on Brisbane. Clearly, Hugh McCluggage is the most dynamic and impactful midfielder. So look at this, season lows for all those critical numbers.
Injured,
14 disposed.
I know there's a lot of tape on his
Well, a lot of
knee,
tape on his knee. There's no doubt he's carrying something, and it certainly hampered him. Take nothing away from Sheen Mullen, but the critical ones are score involvements. So when he has 8+ score involvements, they just win, hands down. And he's a great forward half midfielder, only 1 score involvement. So the Irish experiment worked, because I thought also O'Connor and Rayner was the right matchup.
Well, they were old school tags, weren't they? But the other one's the flow-on effect. So Charlie Cameron's not quite right. And Geelong aren't as threatened by him, because we're going to put mass pressure on. We don't think we're going to have to worry about him out the back here. Yeah. So his opponent in Mullen from earlier in the year now gets assigned elsewhere. So it's a double double win for the Cats.
Chris Scott is the king of the coaching masterclass and the king of making positions that maybe don't seem super valuable, really valuable. And the wing position this year especially has become an absolute weapon for Geelong. And Ollie Dempsey, well, he is the king of the wing.
Well, it seems like he's got a licence to be more aggressive than... I mean, he does get back and help defensively. That's part of the role. But you just see there, 25 disposals, 3 goals and 2 score assists in a final. So only the 6th Geelong player on record to do that with the stars that have gone through that particular organisation. But I just love the way that he played it. And he's probably done it a few times this year, but it's an absolute wing masterclass. So this is young Levi Ashcroft. And so they started pretty much shoulder to shoulder. And you can just see the nature in which he's able to go forward and really challenge. I thought the way that Brisbane defended it, and quite often it was wing on wing, and then when there was a secondary stoppage, a half forward would come off and Berry would roll around. But once again, he's on Berry. If Berry gets it, he's in a position to strike. Now this is all about anticipating the turnover. It is gone, so he will hold his width to stop Brisbane coming to the open side, essentially, initially. But then once he realises he's a chance to get goal side of his direct opponent, he challenges you, and challenges you really quickly. And on this occasion, it was a brilliant goal. But if you want to come into the competition and you want to play wing, watch him.
They might have the best off-ball runners and off-ball players in the competition. Just before half-time, Bucks, in this game, there was a couple of dubious free kicks to Cam Rayner. Off-the-ball incidents, Tyson Stengel at the other end of the ground having a shot. And we go all the way back up to the other end. You can see here Stengel lining up for what was a pretty important goal. And we go right to the other goal line, Bucks, and Cam Rayner, in this incident here, gets a free kick.
Yeah, I'm surprised you noticed that. The crowd were going absolutely troppo. weren't they? Oh, it was. Like, it was a...
And here's the follow-up one.
It was... And that was silly by Guthrie. I mean, that's there. You can't not pay that. But I thought... we had this vision sort of coming in directly after halftime. So the Cats players have just walked in. They're about to do their line meetings. But, I mean, this is good coaching. It's common sense too, because you want to get your players back focused on what they can control and just to check in to take them away from any emotive reaction that had just taken place. Sometimes you can walk into a situation like that and know, it's already sorted. It's already done. But you'll have a quick word and you'll get a sense in the eyes that, no, they're not rolling the back of their heads and they know exactly, they've already handled that, they've already accepted it and they're ready to move on. But it was instructive, and Chris Scott did say after the game, the thing he was most impressed with was the composure from the team after facing a period like that, and the I suppose the setback of having dominated that first half and not having the gap on the scoreboard that they could have had. But then they just continued on their merry way.
So what to the free kicks then, Bucks? Because it looked like it peeved you on the broadcast.
I reckon there was many that it didn't. Like that one, that
Even
was
as a
clearly
Brisbane
not there.
supporter,
How disappointed would the AFL be that when they see two free kicks like that in a huge game of footy that aren't there?
Yeah, well, very disappointed. I made the point it's a final. You don't want that paid in any game, but this is, it's not an elimination final, but it's do or die. Like, there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and you're not going to get no perfect players, no perfect coaches, no perfect umpires. There's going to be mistakes, but you just want to omit the howlers. And that one, Stengel has a shot on goal. It comes 150 metres, and then you end up with a double goal off the back of it. That's a 3-goal swing. Now, the Cats were able to do what they needed to do, which, as we said, showed composure, but it wasn't about the individual ump, it was just the moment, and it was. I didn't think it clearly wasn't ideal.
They dodged the bullet. That it didn't affect the result. Yeah, because imagine we'd be talking about that for the whole week if that was a close loss by the Cats.
It's certainly going to be a big talking point. Well, it is a big talking point, and a big talking point will be the Q Clash this Saturday night. A huge semi-final. This is version 3 for 2025. One apiece leading into Saturday night, and certainly the Lions will be licking their wounds. Can they take down the plucky Suns after winning the West?
You happy with that one?
So proud of them all, the whole team. They are freaking enormous because I was so scared. Fremantle played so well too. It was such a ripper game, but oh my God, I would have cried if we hadn't won. And what about Dave Swallow? What a freaking legend.
He's bled for this club and he stands up in their biggest moment.
There's the whole club. There's so many people. When they come up here, I mean, you let your kid go when he's a baby. It's a family now. They've grown up here. And we miss them, but we love what they're doing. Like, look at her. She's crying. She's crying. That's how much this Noah and...
Why are you crying?
Have been because I'm so freaking excited. And we've got Q Clash next week. Well, that is what footy is all about. And if you wanted to get excited about the semi-final Q Clash next week, Mrs. Grau just did it for us.
Very good. You're exactly right, Kath. That is what footy is all about. Take a bow, Louise Rao. That was fantastic. Bucks, well done there on the mic too. You got it fired up.
I think she ran the show on her own, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't need any winding up, but she was tapping her son on the chest, like giving him that one, like
Proud mum.
That's how he got solid.
They've embraced it as well. I've seen a few play-ons who took Miller's dad getting involved, and they had the T-shirts with the taglines on it as well. It really is turning into the family club up there under Damien
Great for
Hardwick.
footy up there. Yeah,
It
and
is.
it's good. I'm happy my daughter's in the academy because she's a member of the Suns, which gives us greater access to tickets. Because I
Well,
tell
how
you
many
what,
have you been
they
asked for?
they've come out of the woodwork. Yeah, because there's only 30,000 seats at the Gabba.
It's going to be wound up
Yeah,
this week. Isn't
it will be huge.
Well, let's talk about the game that the Gold Coast won, the elimination final there over against Fremantle. And we knew going into the game from a Gold Coast point of view that Rowell and Anderson were the keys to the city and the keys to going back to the Gabba playing in a Q clash, and they both fired.
It just says there, 30-plus disposals, 10 scoring involvements and final across the last 10 years. So the issue, I think, was that Wagner being out, they didn't really have a lockdown player. So, and maybe rightly so, they backed in their midfielders in Brayshaw and Sarong. But these boys, and we obviously spoke to Matty Rowell, and a lot's been made of it. And I was probably one that pigeonholed him into being an inside mid. But geez, he's gone to work on his game. He was interviewed this morning on radio and just taken ownership of his performance. And so you look at the leadership of this football club under those two boys. They're going to go places, and they stood up in a big game, which gives them confidence going back to the Gabba.
I can't believe his transformation as an athlete. You know, he had 11 inside 50s on the weekend. Like, he was a good inside player, yeah, but we never saw that outside surge running.
No, we stood next to him, didn't we? And after we said it's amazing how sort of slim he is, but how hard.
and granite. Yeah, and that's like
you,
that's
mate.
a secret.
Granite.
No, but to be able to go away. And like he had some injuries in that sort of period, but to go away and to continue to work, he had to set himself for that, no doubt. Would have changed his diet, would have changed how he trained, would have had to bring on the trainers and the conditioning staff to work out how it went. But in the final moments, like, he was as prevalent as any. But that the way that the Suns handled that, as we look at this vision, now we see clearly Luke Jackson finishes this to go 6 point up, and the Fremantle runner says to Tracy, at centre bounce, you're behind. So we're now going in to close the game down as far as Freo is concerned.
3.5 minutes to go.
3.5. So it's 3.5 minutes that now Mac Andrew has sent back to equalise with Josh Tracy.
Patrick Voss doesn't go.
No, and that's instructive. So whether they wanted... I thought, let's keep going here. That intercept mark from Cox was great. Got to hit that one with Brayshaw here, because as soon as you head out to wide, it's still 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And if you stop it here, have a look at the Fremantle players. There's no movement. There's no look to find the next uncontested mark. It's only going one place. And it's going one place to a contest that Brodie Hewlin ends up winning.
So who's in the box seat here, though, with the matchup between Tracy and Andrew?
Well, in the end, I suppose Andrew's used to playing forward, and Tracy hasn't been exposed this much, and he gets done. You know, he gets on the back foot. That's it. That's as easy as you can imagine a contest being won in the last couple of minutes.
Well, you think Rowell and Anderson in the middle. This is the last centre bounce. This ball here is the most critical ball to win. It's looking like it's going to be a ball up, but the extraction here from Davies, and you mentioned Rowell on the outside. This is the moment that won it for the Suns. They were the ones that got the opportunity to get the ball ahead. Then there's the free kick here to David Swallow, who came on as a sub. We know he's retiring. And you go back and he kicks what we believe to be a goal, but then obviously is a point. But Alex Davies and his evolution behind the two superstars has been something that I think sort of gone under the radar.
He was the highest rated player in the first quarter on the ground, and I think
he's looking after Hayden Young.
He was looking after Hayden Young, yeah, absolutely. So, but once again, when you stand next to him, he's a big lad. So, in terms of those tall midfielders, like
Josh Dunkley,
like a Dawson or someone like that, he's a man to allow Rowell and Anderson to go and hunt. Even with that last one, Long holds down Pearce. So, yeah, Mac Andrew marks the ball, but the other role players in and around that also did their job.
Well, it was a big shot to finish the game there from David Swallow, and we saw some amazing footage from the AFL where you could see it touched on the line, and certainly, Ralphie, that's an investment that the AFL have got, and it's looked like it's paid dividends already.
Yeah, it certainly has. That David Swallow overrule from the ARC, the third umpire, was only made possible because of new super slow-mo technology which was brought in by the AFL for Thursday's games onwards. Amazing. It's a high-definition camera used by the ARC. It is paid for by the AFL and it follows only the ball. As you can see here, it is chalk and cheese. It is so much sharper given an exceptionally high frame rate. The normal cameras are spectacular for Fox Footy, but not as amazing for the replays there. And so the AFL truly believes that if this new technology technology was not brought in, they might not have been able to overrule it. Now, thankfully, it was always going to be a point at least, which would have resulted in that win for Gold Coast. But it might well be the difference in a grand final between an overall that might cost or give one club an AFL grand final. So let's face it, on a weekend where the AFL umpires didn't cover themselves with glory, I think this is a massive tick for the AFL and its investment into the game.
Certainly is a big investment there, Ralphie, and one that had a big impact on that game. It worked in the Suns' favour that it was a point in the end rather than a goal, because Fremantle had to take it the whole distance in 9 seconds, which is impossible.
Yeah, and which would have been hard for the players to not acknowledge that. And there were certainly a few players out on the field that tried to tell them to quieten down. Fremantle players tried to tell them to quieten down and not say that it was touched, so they could go back to. So they're the really witty and smart players on the field. But
we'll get to that in the GBU.
But it might help someone win a grand final.
A good investment from the AFL. The Suns' entries, Brownie, obviously no finals experience or very little finals experience for them, but they've got the 3-time premiership coach there, and you think he came up with a plan that works well in finals.
Absolutely, and it worked. And quite often you'll see a big run in one of the quarters, and it was the Suns, was the match separation, was the quarter 2, 7 goals there. They were dynamic, and I think it was set up on the back of long entries. Now, I didn't see the pre-game interview. I was flying home from this Hawthorn game, Geordie, but I think Dimmer referred to this, the deeper entries, how critical they were. So, yes, they were able to make contests. Freo took quite a few intercept marks on the night, but only one in this critical second quarter where the Suns were able to set up that scoreboard gap.
It's amazing what you think of when you hear stuff like Damien Hardwick coaching that way. This is his Warner Renshaw philosophy. Early in the game...
His what?
His Warner Renshaw. There's this Warner where you can pull more sort of tricky kicks and be a bit more flashy, or there's the Renshaw with the 2 openers for Australia.
Oh, so who are you talking about?
Play the lines. Just play it simple, get it deep, put it in long.
How many games for Australia did Matt Renshaw open? He's gone early on that one. He's open.
It was a while ago, Brandon.
4 tests.
It was a while ago.
But he's spot on. They were really good. 6 goals, 7 from forward half. So, they set up the game really well on the back of that second quarter.
Yeah, so they did choose to go long, and they'd picked up in the last month that Fremantle were a little bit exposed in that particular area. So that's why, the metrics that pop out, it might...
Do Warner Renshaw's metrics or Dimmer's
clearly,
metrics?
that's exactly what it must be.
He's a themer. He's a great themer.
Now that I know what it means.
A big theme for this week.
Did you like the themes when he went to the themes?
I love the themes,
lover.
and I can tell you what, coming into the Q Clash this week, there is going to be a phonetic theme. No doubt it'll be the Detroit Pistons or something like that. And Touk Miller caught up with the boys post-game and had this to say about the upcoming Q Clash.
Don't get me wrong, didn't want to get too far ahead from tonight's game, but, Brizzy losing last night, you do think ahead for a little bit and you go, geez, how good would it be to go head-to-head in a Q Clash next week, drive up the road and, try to send them out in straight sets. So I look very much looking forward to that.
Cool. That's a big call, mate.
Oh, well, we know your reaction to it, Bucks. It's a big call. You were there too, Louis. Could just, Touk Miller's had a little bit of he's had some blow-ups in Q Clashes. This is going to be feisty, isn't it?
Well, Buck suggested that he and Zorko have the joint press conference on the
like a weigh-in.
You
can hold the flag on the way out.
Face-off, just to get things going. But there's no doubt there is some bad blood between these two.
But one thing... Touk Miller has always struck me as quite a controlled, organised bloke that doesn't give much away. But that just shows you the emotion of it directly after and what lies underneath. So that reveals the true sort of thoughts about the line.
That's how you build a rivalry.
There's a little bit of niggle in there.
But you speak about flopping and a few of the umpires' contentious calls. You want to have your best 4 umpires on that game because there will be spot fires everywhere.
It's going to be a huge game, the Q Clash, the 3rd one for the season. Let's head to the other elimination final. It was the GWS Giants versus Hawthorn Brownie. And you think that Hawthorn's defence is the best remaining or the best in the competition?
The best in the competition. I was impressed. Just being there live at the ground, you get the full perspective of it. It was a great game of footy. I loved it. Hawthorn deserved to win. They were the better team for the majority. GWS were gallant to get back into it. They conceded 72 inside 50s, which was an amazing performance. So a lot early in the game. But their chemistry and the synergy between the Hawthorn defenders.
And their recruiting.
Is magnificent. Their recruiting's been terrific. So Barras and Battle especially have come in, done a magnificent job. You'll see Hardwick's name highlighted a few times. So just see that on a quick breakaway. I love the way they protect the real danger zone. So this is a re-entry. Ash has it about 70 metres out from goal. They protect the danger zone on the interior, on the inside. Look at that. They just converge on that ball. Sicily gets the intercept mark. You've got pressure at the ball, but then trade-off. So, guys assign the correct role, going to the right GWS player, and then Tom Barras protecting the goal line. Just basics, all these things. And then the final setup, 8 minutes to go. GWS look like they're going to win the game. They're getting on top. Hardwick's playing on Toby Green, but doesn't get sucked and drawn too close to him. Gets off. Then they get the intercept and they go back the other way. Sam Butler comes into the side. He was at that stoppage. He runs hard to equalise. This is defence. Gets the free kick, goes back, kicks the goal and squashes the GWS resurgence. So I was really impressed with them, and that's why they can go a long way if they get that part right.
Well, you mentioned Blake Hardwick's name was mentioned there a lot in those clips. He did the job on the captain.
He's amazing. Sam Mitchell must love coaching him, and I can see now why he was given the number 15 after his first 3 years after the great Luke Hodge. He played on Toby Green, but 5 or 6 critical contests in that last 8 minutes of football when GWS had drawn even, he was amazing. So to keep Toby Green, one of the most dynamic and best captains in the game, to only 2 behinds and ineffectual on the day was magnificent performance by him especially.
We've seen the Adelaide midfield earlier on in the program lined up. They're going to line up against a Hawthorn midfield that is being spearheaded by Jai Newcombe at the moment, who has had patches this year where he's struggled, but he is turning into Mr. September again.
Yeah, he had his, like all players do, he had his niggly injuries that probably didn't allow him to play at 100%, but I think we all know when do you want to play well? You want to play well in September.
You can't play any better.
And certainly make a name for yourself. So he's up there clearly with 3 finals. He's played 3 finals, number 1 rated player on the ground. So the way that he played on the weekend, you were there live. He was unbelievable.
He was, and they needed it, didn't it? Like, he just inspirational. He's a big man. He was powerful. He took on all before him, especially Tom Green, who's a big-bodied midfielder there. So he was terrific. The other thing was, too, that stands out in finals, making the most of your opportunities. Now, Hawthorn have been good. Jack Gunston's been amazing in his career. They kicked their first 7 set shots. The all-time record for any team in a final is 8 straight set shots. They kicked 7, so they made the most of the opportunity, and they were able to establish that gap on the scoreboard. It got out to 42 points at one stage.
Who did the Crows send to Newcombe? Oh, this is the set shots, but who did the Crows send to Newcombe?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Peatling's done that job before.
But this speaks to the focus that Hawthorn have always had on good kickers.
Yeah.
Just listening to Talkback Radio this morning, one of the Hawthorn supporters talking about going and seeing the captains run and seeing how the Hawthorn players were just kicking the ball to one another in warm-up and just clean and crisp. You think it's Scrimshaw, you think it's Sicily, D'Ambrosio, it's rinse repeat. Left footers that can hit a target extremely well, and it's the history repeated from your era.
Well, they get that opportunity this Friday against the Crows. The Hawthorn is going to be a huge semi-final here at the Adelaide Oval. Adelaide staring down the barrel of a straight sets exit. And this team, Hawthorn, well, they are one of the most exciting teams in the competition. Sets up for a huge semi-final live here on Fox, Friday, 6:30. Welcome back to On the Couch. It's time for the good, the bad and the ugly. And to kick us off with the good, it is me. Big finals. The Gold Coast, their first final. Bailey Smith, a really important player. And this is how you just get... Bailey Humphrey, sorry. This is how you get rid of all the nerves. You go out and you swing the legs with the mascot. And then you go out and have a sensational impact on the game. He was fantastic. You can see there the numbers in the second quarter as the 12th best quarter by any player.
It's a good year, Jake.
In a final on record. Struggled last year, Brownie. I reckon a lot of people compared him to Dusty, and we've mentioned that under the Hardwick regime. But he's become a very, very important player forward of centre for the Gold Coast Suns.
A man that was very important on Friday night was O'Sheen Mullen, the Irishman. Kicked his first goal as well. He was lauded for his effort on Hugh McCluggage, keeping him quiet. But look at that first goal in his AFL career. I'm sure he would have kicked a few of them on the Gaelic footy field.
The Irish kick around the corner well.
Yeah, they do.
See who flew for that? Jack Henry.
Yeah.
15 metres out from your goal and you're the fullback. That's how they play.
Yeah.
I've got... I've got Tracy and Rioli. There was a contest on the wing there when the whips were cracking and they both body lined the ball. I think Tracy got a little bit lower than Rioli, but have a look at this, just a bit of a nod to each other. Yeah, well done.
They both saw after that, weren't they?
Well done, and let's get back to it. So I love the contest. I mean, Rioli... neither of them wanted to lose their feet because they would have given a free kick away. You couldn't put your head over it because, you probably could have gone a little bit lower, but I thought that they both approached it well. I just love the nod to, well done.
Lee's not in the house. What would Lee have said at that moment there?
Get your head and shoulders lower than the opposition.
What's about the accent?
What about that?
Well, no, that's the
He's not here. He's on 360 now.
I'm going to see him at the airport.
Okay, good point.
Behave yourselves.
Still fried. My goods is paying respect, and we're at this game to Nat Five, one of the modern day greats, two-time Brownlow medalist. Ironically, he and Dave Swallow were on the same amount of games, and Dave Swallow continues on his AFL journey this year. But this man here farewelled a Fremantle crowd that no doubt he brought a lot of happiness and a lot of highlights to the people there, and honoured by both teams, both supporter bases, and he's been a future Hall of Famer and an absolute champion of the game.
He spoke fantastically well after the game too about what the game
did.
had given him and what Fremantle had given him too. The bad, Geordie.
Nothing. My bad, and it's hard to think in the moment what we would have done, but certainly one player was onto it. So Neil Erasmus touches the ball, and rightly so. He sort of says that he's touched it, but then when you think about it, how hard it would be to go from the goal line to the other end. Alex Pearce is the one with his head switched on. He's like, hey, Neil, shush. Just don't say anything. Let's hope that goes through for a goal, because I'm going onto the wing and then I'll be in defence in no time.
I think Wanganeen Miller out of the middle again.
He was onto it, Pearce.
Well, my bad is some very, very close friendly fire or nearly friendly fire from the Collingwood Adelaide game. Mason Cox came into the side and that swinging arm, Mason. Wow. We've seen players suspended this year for injuring their own players. So I don't know what the AFL Michael Christian would have done about that if that had collected. You've got to be so careful. Certainly at 210 or whatever centimetres he is. If you swing an arm like that, you're going to clock someone on the head.
You reckon?
If you clock the oppo, you would. I don't know if you clocked the owner.
We saw it. Remember Gary Rowan knocked out Jeremy Cameron a couple of years ago. Yeah. So my bad from the same game was Riley O'Brien. This hit out to advantage and then long, and then still side bottom, just a one-step left foot Tory, mind you. But, not ideal. That's a bad one. Riley wouldn't enjoy seeing that.
What's he meant to do?
Yeah, both
arms were grabbed.
Head it back towards the goal.
Back to the
Go back
spot.
into the feedback.
Danger zone.
They'll be practising that.
Ty Gallop, the last thing you would have thought about was getting his room ransacked on Friday night.
This is no good, Brett.
The lines start across the road from the MCG at the hotel there, and I think it's obviously public at the Pullman there. Nice hotel, but obviously wasn't a great experience for a young Ty Gallop, because he had his place ransacked after someone turned up with a fake ID and managed to talk their way up into Ty's room. Now, maybe clever by the thief, because he didn't use a big name. Ty's just early on in his career, so if he had to use Lockie Neal or Dunkley, probably wouldn't have got through. But he gets up there all the same, steals a bit of cash and a few other things. So, bad performance by the hotel.
No, that's no good. That's no good. That could have nearly fallen into the ugly. Yes. My ugly is the worries at Essendon. They just keep bubbling away, and the captain, Zach Merritt's name, is continually thrown up as someone who is asking a lot of questions, seeking a lot of answers. How ugly, Geordie?
From people externally or internally? I think
internally and externally. And, I mean, he hasn't played in a final. He's played 250 games. Draper, we believe, is probably going to leave. There's other players that have asked to go as well. Ridley's another name. How ugly could this get for Essendon's rebuild and Brad Scott if Zach Merritt, the captain, was to ask for a trade?
I think it's pivotal that they try and keep him. And I know he's contracted, and I think there's certain players in terms of fabric players for football clubs, and we've spoken about Dave Swallow. He probably had opportunities to leave that football club. Zach Merritt, he would be highly desired by other football teams, but they just can't lose him under any circumstances. Whatever his grievances are, they need to try and fix those, because you could just see the hope and the morale around the group would be severely dented.
Big time. Brownie.
Yeah, it's a bad one. Darcy Jones on Saturday, just devastating for the young man. Did his knee, came in to put pressure on the oppo, and it just caught his knee the wrong way, at the wrong angle. It was devastating. You know how devastating it was for the club because Adam Kingsley had his head in his hands himself on the bench nearby when he got the news back. Straight away, the doctors let the coaches know, so he's certainly an impact on the second half. Bad luck to him.
I mean, losing finals is bad enough, but the long-term injuries is nearly,
and he's a
nearly
beauty
worse.
Yeah.
My ugly was a little bit of the behind-the-play free kicks again. We'll have a look at this one from Voss on Powell. Now, that's overt, and this one on Stewart on Loman was paid a free kick as well. Let's not kid ourselves. You boys are big forwards. That happens every contest. Every time the ball's going to come in your area, there is a body play and a positional play for...
It's unusual that we've seen two of them, though. Is there a directive, you think, to look at contact like that?
No, I think that either defenders or forwards lose their feet or lose their balance in those contests quite often. But because it's not in the broadcast arc, we don't see it. When free kicks are paid, it's quite obvious because they're a long way away from the play. So, sometimes you can win the contest by too much. You can definitely do it in a marking contest now, but in the wrestling that takes place to position yourself for when the ball's coming, that's part of...
Isn't that why we have 4 umpires?
Part of your role. Well, potentially, I think that should make it easier, but they would know, they would see it quite often. So are they over the threshold?
Big
Definitely
prices
not the
to
second
pay.
one.
Big prices to pay with those free kicks close to goals.
Well, more
Big
so the Stewart
finals.
one.
Yes. Up next, though, we're going to go a quick break, and after that, we are going to sing the praises.
Celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should.
As always, to finish up the show, it is time to sing the praises, and we're going to sing the praises of some players that might have gone under the guard on the weekend with the way they performed. And Brownie, you are going to kick us off.
Yes, Jared Witts, one of Nathan's old pupils. He was
taught him everything he knows.
Absolutely. Did you? I'm not sure about that statement,
so,
but he had more hit-outs than Darcy and Jackson combined. He needed to stand up if there were any chance of going over to the West and winning. And stand up he did. Look at the big man down the line as well. Some of the hit-outs, all that sort of stuff. He's had a consistent season. He's a great clubman. And obviously you did show him a few things.
He's an enormous gentleman, great man, and has led that club really well and playing probably the best footy of his career, which is great. I've got Paddy Dangerfield. They had him on ice, but he played more centre bounces in this game than we've seen from him for a long time. They're averaging 5 and then just went in. And it wasn't so much him getting the clearance as it was just being a battering ram to stop the Lions from getting clearances and then giving his other teammates a chance to get... This is the one that straight after half-time, he actually runs into Tom Atkins. But in the end, just that absolute intent to get to the ball, it was a bowling ball type mentality that created loose balls for his teammates.
Rewards a week off. I've gone Murphy Reid, and purely for the ground ball game and the vision and the hands on the weekend. It was a real standout from being live at the ground. Just look at this sort of stuff. That is vision. It's clean. It was a bit slippery. There'd been a fair bit of rain that had come through before the game, but the cleanliness in his hands was a feature between Bucks and I.
Personally, to me, that is a reason why you don't need Pryor. Because players should know where their exits are and they can get it in and out of their hands really quick.
He's certainly the greatest
Going
player.
down a rabbit hole now, Nathan.
It
takes a minute to go.
I've got Isaac Quaynor, and I think going back into the Lions' den, 3 weeks ago, we all know what happened with Isaac Rankin. What this man did behind the ball, we spoke about Darcy Moore in the defence. He had his 4th best game for the season, highest rated, but I reckon he had his best game for the season. The way he performed under the pressure that he was on, and that Colin was under, going back over into enemy territory, was incredible. He was so good behind the ball, in the air, and then gave them some...
It's a good point you
great
make,
football.
because he would have carried a fair bit of pressure after what happened.
It certainly was. Well, it sets up for a great weekend of footy, boys. We've got Adelaide versus Hawthorn on Friday night, and the Lions versus Suns in the Q Clash. And then we'll be here next Monday live on the couch.